Right, today we're just going to have a look at producing a track from scratch. So the first thing I would do is I would find myself a reference track that I like the sound and the groove of. Now, if you look on the top here, I've got a reference track that I've just imported into Abelton as a WAV file. I've also got, if you look at the mouse over here, got this, so it's on an external output, so it won't be affected by any of the mastering chain that I've got in the rest of the project. So the first thing I would do, if you look here, I'll just zoom in. This is just a section where the main sort of beat kicks in. So I've looped that so I can just have a listen and see what the elements are playing that I need to really focus on in terms of getting the kick and bass feel. So I'll just play you the reference track. So we've got a nice sort of melodic house. It's 123 beats per minute. So I've set the speed up here, and I've just taken that off so that that is all perfectly timed. Once I've done all of those things, then I basically want to create the kick and bass. So the blue areas here is the kick and bass. When I'm producing a kick and bass, I've already done this. I'll just show you the process in just a section underneath. What I would do, what you want to do is first of all just highlight the area that you want your first block to be in. So I'm just holding down left on the mouse and just highlighting that area and release that, and then I do a right click and then I go to insert empty MIDI. Okay, and that will just give you a nice MIDI in that area. Once you've done that, what I would then do is I've already done it on this channel, but you can see here, I would go up to my instruments. I'd go to drums over here. You can see where the mouse is there. And then I would go grab a drum rack. So I'd basically click and drag this here over here, and you'll get an empty one of these. Now I've filled this up with different drum samples. So what you'd want to do is get your different drum samples wherever you're getting them from. So I've got some in files here. So there's like a folder called here, trance kicks. I basically just take a load of those or whatever kicks that you want to use. And then you'd highlight those. So highlight them and then just drag them over here into this section, and then they will appear there. Once you've done that, when you go into here, double click on the actual empty MIDI that you've loaded up, you will basically have them all down the side here as all set up for you. So the next part we want to do is just draw in some drums. So I'll just do a right click and go into draw mode. And then we would click an area, just chuck in a kick there. Just open this up a little bit so we can sort of see what we're doing. Extend it, and then I'd press Control D just to duplicate that kick. And then you can see up here it's moving along as you're duplicating, so you can see how many you're getting. We're just going to duplicate it for the whole of that bar. Okay, and then once you've done that, I'm just going to solo this kick here so you can just see what it's sounding like. All right, and then what I would do is I would go through all these kicks and just see if it had the right feel compared to the reference track. So we'll just play that kick. So there's that kick, and then I would literally be just going through all of these. I'd just click there, highlight the arrow keys, so they're all going, and then I would just move through all the different kicks that I've imported and just see which one feels right for me and is closest to my reference track that I feel works. So this is what a lot of your time is spent doing when you're producing music. You're testing different samples and just seeing what has the right dynamics and feel for the track that you're working on. And you can imagine this could go on for a long time. Just getting the feel. But anyway, we'll go back to the track, and I've already found a decent kick, so I'll take you to that now. Okay, so the kick I've chosen, if I just click on this blue area, this is the kick. I'll just open up this area. There's the kick, zoom in on it so you can sort of see what it's made up in each bar. Now you can extend or change the length of these depending on the length of the actual kick and find out whether you want resonance afterwards to give it sort of more presence, or whether you want it to be a sharp stabbing kick. Then you might want to make these longer or shorter depending on that. Okay, once you've got and drawn all of your beats in, you can just duplicate them. So what I've done is just duplicated it so it's the length of the whole of the reference track there. So there's my kick and bass just all done and dusted. Now we'll just have a little look at the bass notes now. So I'll just play you that kick actually. I'll solo that out just so you can hear the kick. So I've just gone for a nice big weighty kick. Also EQ'd it. So if we go into the EQ, you can have a look. I've just EQ'd it, so I've just done a bit of a cut. You can see I've just increased it at about 65 hertz. It's peaking around 40 something, 45. So I've just sort of done a little bit of EQing, took away the real low end. This is like, cutting from probably about 25 hertz just to remove any of the rumble and distortion and just give me a nice clean sound, and then how much I want there. If you wanted a big click on it, then you'd be increasing this area, but I'm happy with how that sounds. I just wanted it to sound like that. So that is the kick. Now the next part is the bass line, which I've got just under the kick. If you have a look here, you can see how they're offset. So we've got two bass notes going just after the kick, and there is an overlap, which I'll be sidechaining later, which is basically ducking the actual sound, so it removes those frequencies so you can basically get a cleaner sound, but we'll talk about that in a bit. So let's have a look at the bass note that I've used here. This is the bass note. The bass note I got from one of my plugins, which is Silent 1. I'll just load that up. Okay, so this is Silent 1 here. I've got a lead. Let's get rid of that. I've got a lead here. So this is the lead that I've got. Just found a suitable note that I like the sound of, that had the right sort of feel. Made all the adjustments within here as to just, where the cutoff was, just changing a few things. But yeah, this is the note. This is what I went for. So if we play those together, you'll be able to hear the kick and the bass. So you get that nice feel. Now I was talking about the side chaining before, so if we actually go into the kick, I'll just move along my chain here. There's a whole lot of stuff, but don't worry about that at the moment. We'll just look at side chain. So I use LFO tool. I think it's one of the best to use. So if we have a look at that, move that up here, that just shows you where the kick is and where I'm cutting. So I'm cutting this element out here, and that's where those two notes are coming in. So if we go on to the other channel, I'll just pull this down so we can see that. Go on to, and then we look at the LFO tool for that. We're doing the opposite, so we're cutting that area out. Now I'm not cutting it totally out because I want some of this to come through so that it gives that sort of flow to the actual sound. And then I've got these nice smooth curves, so it's just helping the transition to give you the feel and the groove of the actual track. Right, once you're happy with that groove, which I am with this one, obviously you'd want to change the levels and just play around with those, but once you're happy with it all, then you want to add your next sort of element. So the next thing I would be adding would be bringing in some percussion. So I basically got some percussion loops. I think these are all off, they're all off probably Loop Cloud, I believe. So I found some decent percussion loops that I can then use for this track. I'll just go through them individually. So there's this one. Then there's this one. Then there's this one. And then all together, I'll just highlight them. There you go. So you're getting a nice sort of groove. One of the things I've done with these is I've panned a couple of them that sound quite similar. I've panned it one to the left by 10, which is just over here. I've just adjusted that. And then one over to the right just to give them some stereo separation. And I'll play you that with the rest of the track in a minute. I'll just turn off some of the other things. Okay, so with the actual kick and bass and the percussion loops, the actual track that we've got looping is sounding like this. So I'm just looking for a nice sort of movement and feel where there's a nice groove being developed. And we'll compare that to the reference track. Slightly different, but you'll hear. There's the reference track. And then here's my groove. Right, you can hear something at the start of here, which is the next area that I would basically add, which is the white noise, which is really like the high-end, high-sounding, usually like cymbals, clashes, and build-ups. So I'll play you this we'll play it from the beginning and see how it sounds with those extra bits. So, here we go. Oh, there's another element too. Then we got this white noise build up here. And then a cymbal hit, I think. One of these. And then we have the drop, and then the beat, and the groove kicks in. Okay, so what have we got here? We've just basically got some just really nice, simple sounds. Just a nice rise, so I'll just play you that. These are all samples that you can get off Loop Cloud. So there's that rise. What's this one here? Let's play this. Nice, yeah, a little cymbal, bit of reverb on it. So obviously you want to play around with your levels and just get it so it's feeling right. And also, you know, you can go into your reference track and use that to sort of work out what your levels should be. You know, using your ears, that's the thing that I've been taught from a lot of people who have been helping me along this journey of learning production. Is it's actually really important to train your ears and spend time listening. Also, working on your music first thing in the morning when you just get up is actually one of the best times because your ears are rested and it's almost like they're reset, so you can hear things different. So I find when I'm working on tracks, I'll get them to a certain point and then I'll have a decent break without too much going on, some quiet time, say for half an hour, come back while my ears are sort of reset again and just listen again, because your ears will they'll be dulled when you're going through this for significant amounts of time. So I really suggest you do that because your work can sound quite different, and it's one of them things that you've just got to get used to. Okay, that other element that we heard just before is just a sample that I've got. I've basically drew in some more MIDI and then set it to the key of the track, which is E. So I just chucked those in there. And then I basically used the Jupiter 8000, one of Alan Morrow's sound banks off here. So yeah, it says Alan Morrow Studios. It's a bass note with an effect number 5, which is a nice preset, which I like the sound of. Right, we'll have a listen to what that sounds like. So one of these here, and I'll just highlight that, solo that. Now if I was to extend that, let's just see what that would sound like. So in the track, I didn't really want it just doing this big, long droning bass, because I think it would interfere with my kick and bass. So I've just got it as a sort of a single sort of stab, so that at the start of the track, when I play it, basically will just sound like this. Just a little interesting sound to build up the track before the drop. Now you can see with my EQing here, I've just absolutely boosted it in the low end because I just felt it was lacking quite a bit of presence. So I'll just play that through there so you can just see that coming through. There it is again. So if you have a look on here, just see where it's coming through on the actual EQ. So yeah, it's coming through at a low end. Right, this is the next element that I added. So it's just a sequence in a synthesizer plugin. For this one, it was Silent 1 again. So all I did was draw in the MIDI, empty MIDI, and then drew in the note. So I went, E again, just brought that all the way across, just to basically test out and just see what this sounds like. So it sounds like this. I'll just solo it for you. And there it is with the rest of what I've put in so far. So you're getting a nice sort of groove. Things are starting to happen. Now we'll just have a look at the next part that I added. So I basically got just a high key note in E, just up a little bit. So what was that? Let's have a little look. Same as before, just empty MIDI. This one's E2, the other one was E0, so there shouldn't be clashing too much. But I think this one's got quite a few different parts in it. So what I did was I basically EQ'd this one, so you can see here where I've just dipped out. These are the two main parts. They're the two frequencies that are coming through with this new one. So you can see in the new one here. Now I've got it automated so that it just brings the cutoff, which is basically bringing in the amount that is allowed to be heard. So what you can see here, these two little lumps, this is the cutoff, where I've just got the sound totally isolated and it's going to increase. I've automated it so that this will increase as we bring it in. I'll just play you that and you'll hear it and watch it happen. So you can see as I'm bringing it in, both of these are just increasing in size, which is just increasing those levels. And then we've got those cut out of here. And then there's another sound again. And it just gets real fun where you're building and adding more layers to the track. Now you can get carried away and add too many and it can make the track sound muddy, so you've got to be very selective of which ones you choose, what's your favorites. There's a term that people use in production called less is more, which is really because if you don't have too many sounds, you can get them sounding really clean and nice, and you just get a really professional feel by having less sounds that are sounding really high quality than lots of sounds that are clashing and like fighting for the frequency space within the headroom. So this is the next sound that I added. I'm not sure whether I used this or not, but it was just quite interesting as I was looking for sounds. So once again, just like the other ones, just loaded up empty MIDI. Now with this one, you can see that they're all divided because I wanted, with this one, if I'd left it as a whole thing, it doesn't loop back to the start. So I wanted just the beginning part. I'll try and give you a demonstration of what that sounds like. I'll play you this as a loop, and then I'll extend one of these so you can see what I'm talking about. So this is it here. I'll just turn that up a bit so you can hear it. It's quite subtle. So I found that where I've got that looping, it's just really nice. Otherwise, it just actually does this instead. I'll play it from here. It goes like this. And then you get just a single tone for that second part. And then it just stays like that. So I wanted it to just do it faster, really. So found that it was basically this size to have that repeating. Just play it again from here. Now that sound was created from the Jupiter. This is a preset sequence, Alan Morris Studios. This is just just a sequence that he's got. So when I was just trying through them, I'd be just checking. I'd go into the sound banks. And this is just some of the packs. And then I'd find, go through the different sounds, any sequences, effects. There's just all sorts of stuff. Some really nice presets. So that's what this is. This is just a preset that Alan Morris made that I was able to think, yeah, that might work really well within this track in terms of loops. Then up the top here, we've got another sound. I'll play you that one. Let's see where that's from. That one's Inspire. Another really great plugin. I'd highly recommend getting this. So this has got, here, I'll play you. You'll see. This is this one. It's just like a stab. So it sounds a bit like a helicopter, but you'll hear, I'll play these two with the rest of the track. When this one kicks in, it just sort of just adds another layer. It's going to be tricky to EQ, but we'll give it a crack. So if I'm playing these from, I'll just remove that. Remove that. Duplicate these back into that area. And we'll play it from here with everything going, and then you're about to hear what's going on from there. I think that's right. Let's turn it down a bit. So this is how far I've got with this track. I've only been working on it for a few days. But yeah, really just felt to work on something new and fresh, and I haven't really produced anything of this sort of speed, and I do love this style of music, but then when you've got sounds like this coming in, it's sort of giving it my own flavour. But it's really about having a groove, something that makes you want to move. It has a nice feel with it. Real subtle sounds that are coming in. They are, let's find those. They're here. There it is. This one here, that's just come in. Sounds like this. Which is a gated sound. Gives you, you get a lot of this sort of style in some of the classic trance. I'm just bringing those elements into this track. Now we're going to hit this stab part. Have a listen to this change. Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Sort of adding more of an urgency for a build-up. Now I'll probably automate and bring these in, because I'm making this into sort of a more progressive track where I'm going to be bringing in sounds and taking out sounds. But you can imagine this sort of style, you could have it on these continuous loops and be bringing them in at different stages you know, for live performance. I think it really lends itself. You could have you know, this whole thing playing for an hour, bringing in all sorts of different levels and just bringing some out, bringing others in. One of my most favourite sets that I saw a DJ play was when Carl Cox was DJing on 10 turntables. They all had lock grooves, which is where you have basically a beat that is like a loop that is the perfect length of the record. So it's basically like a circle that's recorded this perfect loop on each record, so you can skip through all these different lock grooves. And he had 10 different lock grooves playing, which are basically loops, and was just mixing them in and out and producing this set. And it was one of the most memorable ones. And that was a long time ago now. I would say probably 25 years ago. But the amazing thing is Carl Cox is still producing today. He's still one of the top DJs, and he's using a lot more modern things, like in his latest production stuff that he's doing live, he's using a push-to controller, an Abelton, for that. So, you know, I get a lot of inspiration from him. But anyway, yeah, this is where we're up to with this track, and thanks for watching. Hopefully I'll get this done and out pretty soon. Cheers.